Liverpool's number one, Zach Gibson. This man is James Drake. Together we are grizzled young veterans. And you are listening to the Ministry of Wrestling. And if you're not listening, remember this. Grit your teeth. Listen.
Hey yo, how you doing, guys? It's me, the one AJ, and I'm very happy right now to introduce a gentleman who, as you can see, was the reason I got that intro video, got this signed autograph, and this signed autograph. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am talking about none other than Mr. Paul B from Hooked on Wrestling. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, buddy, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so grateful for your time in the busiest week of wrestling in the UK. You've got so much going on and you've given us your time. So we are eternally grateful for that.
I am more than happy, mate. And it was great to see those pictures. It was good. I remember meeting you at the Grizzled Young Veterans event.
Yeah.
And that was a weekend.
Yeah, wasn't it just? And what I loved about it was my brother lives not too far from Box Park, Wembley. So I'd done that show, went over to him, celebrated my niece's birthday, and then came to see you again down at Box Park for the Rumble. So
you've got this life thing figured out. Would you give the rest of us some tips?
Mate, I wish I did. But yeah, every now and again it does work out. I tell you. Right, Paul. So have to kick it off with the ultimate question. I mean, for the absolute longest while, I used to see posters everywhere, and it was talking about Hooked on Wrestling. So I need to ask the question: how did the concept come about? How did the brainchild of Hooked on Wrestling come about, and when did you actually launch?
Yeah, so do you know what? It's been ages since I've been asked this question, but I really like telling this story. So back in the day, I used to work for TNA, and I used to help manage their international broadcast deals and whatnot. Anyway, we used to make it a tradition between a group of friends of mine. We had the TNA tour that used to take place every January. So we'd do that. That finished typically on a Saturday night at Wembley Arena. And then we'd always, on Sunday night, it tended to be the Royal Rumble the same weekend. So a whole bunch of us would get together in my mate's flat in Camden, dress up in fancy dress as wrestlers. I was the big boss man one year, Roddy Piper the next year. And we'd do that and we'd have a big party, about 8 or 10 of us. But he left Camden basically and left us homeless, didn't let us anywhere to do it. So I was trying to like rent a place for the night to have a party and whatever. And then I just thought, you know what? Let's see if I can get a bar to show it, sell tickets, see how we go. So I found this bar in Shepherd's Bush that agreed to show the Royal Rumble. This is back in 2013. And we sold about 60, 70 tickets. It was a really good night. And then I was like, well, that was cool. Let's do it again. And then we did WrestleMania. And before you know it, we're doing we're getting 250 people in London. We're doing multiple venues. Fast forward a couple of years, and I think our peak in about 2018 was, I think I had a WrestleMania party when I did 26 different venues around the UK on one night, and one in Canada. So it's just gone from there, really.
That is absolutely awesome, and well done, and congratulations. Which actually leads on to my next question, funny enough.
Yeah,
at the time I thought it was you host multiple cities within the UK, but you also done an international one. What is that like to prepare for mentally, and how do you get all these pieces and parts to go together?
It's just about having a trusted team, like repetition. The format's fairly straightforward. A good few activities before the show starts. Wrestling fans are fun. Like, you couldn't do what we do with like MMA fans or even football fans, really. Some you could, maybe, I'm generalizing. But really, us wrestling fans are a breed apart. So we like to have a little bit of daft silliness to go along with our wrestling. So we just put a bit of a show. We have a quiz. We, sometimes invite some guests along. And my guys now are a pretty well-oiled machine. We know what we need to do. The venues are great. As long as pay-per-view works, everyone's pretty happy. So
is it. As I said, again, when I had figured out life, literally came to the Rumble party in Box Park, and it was the time of my life. Was going to go to the Elimination Chamber one, but that was my dad's birthday, so I couldn't make it. But no, they've been really great. So again, having that element of being you got a great team, but it was going from, again, fancy dress at a friend's house. Now you're doing it on a larger scale. How did you get the ideas of like adding the quizzes to it and going to get all these like really niche gifts and stuff that made it what it is today?
Well, to be honest, that came from the start. Like, I'm a wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan since 1991. I know what wrestling fans like, and like, we like to show how much we know about wrestling. We like to talk wrestling. We like to hear from wrestlers, and it just felt like the whole sort of format fell into place. I mean, we've made tweaks and stuff. Like, you were at the Royal Rumble where we had Tugboat over, which is something we do. You know, we could have only done on a few occasions. But by and large, what we do now is the same thing we did 11 years ago. And people love it, because ultimately, I've said this for years about what we do. We provide the framework, but you guys who come to the events are what make it special. Like, without the people coming along, it'd be me and 3 or 4 mates sat in an empty bar watching wrestling and drinking tequila like a bunch of losers. But like, when we've got a full bar, creating a massive atmosphere and everyone's just vibing together and having a good time, and that's what raises it up. Like, the amount of times we've been to one of our parties and come away going, do you know what? That pay-per-view was fantastic. That event was brilliant, rah, rah, rah. And then you watch it again the next day and it's bang average. But it's that atmosphere and that collective experience that raises the whole thing up. And I mean, I'm totally biased, but I would say if you're not in the stadium, there's no better way of watching a WWE event than watching it in a crowd with loads of like-minded people. It's just awesome.
Do you know what? I have to agree. And it was really weird. Again, this was like Cody had just come back at this Rumble as well. And, you know, literally everyone's doing what you do in the stadiums. Everyone's raising their hands. Everyone's saying the woes at the right time and everything. And it's just that collective feeling. It's that feel. And again, going back to what you said, wrestling fans are quite unique. When we went to, me and my guys were at Money in the Bank, and we were talking to one of the bar ladies. They were like, have you ever done a wrestling event before? She'd never done it. And we're like, you'll find that it's just so harmonious. Like, you might cheer for, we all have a face and a heel. You might cheer a heel every now and again, but everyone by and large gets on together. And that's exactly what Hooked on Wrestling's captured. It's just got everybody in there having a great time. You just sit at a table and you're just meeting another fan. It just works out so well.
That's it, man. Ultimately, it's because wrestling fans are good people. You know, by and large, you know, I'd rather hang around with a wrestling fan than pretty much anyone. And, you know, I would say, I might be exaggerating a little bit here, but I would say in 11 years of doing this, we've probably had to throw out less than 20 people from our events. And you're in hospitality yourself, so you'll know that, you know, if we've probably had upwards of about 50, 60,000 people buy tickets to our events. That's not a bad ratio. And that speaks volumes for how cool wrestling fans are by and large.
Yeah, no, for real. It is a great one. So we're talking the watch parties, but then Hooked on Wrestling evolved to the meet and greets. So as I said, I was lucky enough to meet GYV, thanks to you. Typhoon, Tugboat, Shockmaster, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Fred Upman. I was so grateful for someone I grew up watching as a kid and meeting him in real life. And me and my friend Big Tone went for a joint picture, and he called us the new natural disasters, and we just love that. That just set a tone for us so much. Yeah, it was. Oh, we love it. But having that moment, and again, knowing what wrestling fans mean, how important is it for you to be able to provide that, you know, that atmosphere to give us the opportunity to meet these legends of yesteryear and today?
I mean, it's awesome. It's a real privilege to be able to do it. And I mean, we don't do it a lot because, frankly, there are other companies that specialize that do it a lot better than us. Primarily, I'm thinking of Inside the Ropes. Those guys do a phenomenal job. But when the opportunity arises to work with someone cool on a small, lower level basis, I'm always up for it. Or like the best one was when the Bruce Pritchard and Conrad Thompson podcast started back in I think it was late 2016 it started. And it was a bit under the radar at the time, which is hard to imagine now, considering how big those Conrad podcasts are. But it was under the radar. And I remember thinking, do you know what? Bruce ain't got much else going on. Maybe we could get him over to the UK. We were just really lucky. Like, he came over, the timing worked really well, because just as like we were talking about it in like January, February, the tour took place in the July, just as this podcast really hit its stride. And it was awesome, like traveling the UK with the Bruce Pritchard, shows all over. I think we did 4 or 5 shows across Ireland, Scotland, the UK, and it was just brilliant. Like, so that was cool. The next year we did Jeff Jarrett on a similar basis, just after he'd been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then really we didn't do it for a while, but then one of my childhood favorites. We were coming up to our 10-year anniversary, which is the year Royal Rumble before the one you came to. So it's 2023 Royal Rumble. We were planning that, and I was like, I need to make this really special because this is 10 years, so this is important. So that's when we got Box Park, and I went, we went big, way bigger than I've ever been before. And I thought we need to mark this occasion. And we've always had this little bit of back in Hooked on Wrestling's early years, we used to have this little in-joke where we were wanting to find Adam Bomb, because at the time he was off the radar completely. And we found him, and we got in touch, and we got contact, and we were all sort of like, getting on. And I said, why don't you come over? Come over and meet the Hooked on Wrestling grad. And he was the nicest dude in the world. We had an absolute blast. And he did Box Park with us, a couple of events in London, and it was just the best weekend ever, hanging around with Brian Clark. And then this year we did, like you say, we did GYV, we've done Tugboat. We've got Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez coming back this weekend as we record this. So it's been, it's been a moment.
Yeah, I must admit, I was mega jealous when I'm going through the socials, and I was like, they had Brian Clark. What? And don't get me wrong, I love the boys, but I was like, it was just the 5 of us in a flat. We could have met Brian Clark. I was so jealous. It was such a moment. But yeah, and here we are, as you said, you're actually bringing back Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, and you've also got Nigel McGuinness like 2 days before that as well. Like you've got all of these amazing moments. Sadly, I can't make the Nigel one because I brought tickets to something else that weekend. But nice. Again, you're bringing on all these amazing people, and it's heroes of the past and people that people want to hear from today. And I mean, being All In Weekend to get one of the top AEW commentators in as well is just gold. So well done to you for that.
Nigel's a top guy, and his magic show. We did his magic show last year as well around All In Weekend, and it was brilliant. But we did it on the Monday night when a lot of people had already gone home or were a bit tapped out and stuff. So the vibe was a little bit low, the crowd was a little bit low through no fault of Nigel at all. Just people were done for the weekend. So this year we thought, right, let's do it when people are still up for it. So let's do it on the Friday night when people are in a great mood. And it's worked really well because it's sold out almost. Everyone's excited. It's going to be a fantastic show. And we did All In last year was awesome for us. We did tons of events in and around, including our first and only ever actual wrestling show that we put on. I always said that if anyone ever sees me trying to book an actual wrestling show, they can shoot me in the face. But I broke my own rule just so my little boy could watch a show that his dad had put together. And it was equal parts the most fun and stressful experience of my life. So that won't ever be repeated. But the rest of the stuff along, and we're just obviously AEW are back this year. People are so excited to see them back in the UK, as are we. And so we're just doing this, doing a lot. It's all about engaging fans and, giving people who are going to London anyway, giving them that little bit more of an experience to do other stuff. And it's great to see so many other people jumping on the bandwagon with these events and stuff as well, and giving fans so much choice, because I'm not getting any younger, Anthony. I'm when I started Hooked on Wrestling, I was in my 20s selling tickets to 20-year-olds. Now I'm in my 40s and I'm still selling tickets to 20 guys in their 20s. So I feel like someone needs to come and grab this torch out of my hand fairly quickly, because otherwise it's going to look really tragic.
I know the feeling. Again, working in hospitality, you're talking to people. Some of the colleagues that you're talking to, you're like, I'm probably closer to your dad than I am to you in age. So I know that feeling. But
it's worrying.
But may I say, Paul, don't give it up just yet, because you're doing a fantastic job. And
thank you so much.
As well as doing the meet and greets and Q&As, you will be having a huge party as well. Am I not mistaken? In Box Park, that All In Weekend.
Yes, we will indeed. So we are going to be taking over Box Park on Sunday, day of All In, for our Almost In pre-party. It's going to be great. If you listen to this beforehand, it's free entry between 10 and 4 p.m. It will fill, so it's going to be subject to capacity. The place is massive, but there's 50,000 wrestling fans in and around that stadium, so we will fill. And we've just got various cool little stuff going on all the way through. We start the day early doors with some sedate stuff. We've got a quiz and a wrestling themed bingo game with G Money. But then after lunchtime, when people are starting to get the drinks in and starting to get in the mood, then we kick off. Really, we've got Progress Wrestling coming down. We've got a face-off on stage between Sanity, the Progress Wrestling Tag Champs, and their challengers they're facing the Smoking Aces the next day at Wrestling Never Sleeps, the Progress show there. So that's going to be, that 2 wrestling tag teams with that much testosterone. That's not going to be a quiet night at the office. We've got the first ever Box Park Brawl where Gene Money's going to take on Will Cruz. No rules, no ring. Finish counts anywhere in Box Park. That's going to be a trip. We've got the Wrestle Talk guys coming down a lot to do a Survival Series live on stage. What else have we got? We're going to give away tickets to our VIP suite at Wembley Stadium for the show. And I'm forgetting Megaran. We've got a live set from the world's greatest nerdcore rapper. He's the best, man. And he's going to be live on stage at Box Park. He was actually Wrestling Trivia fans, he was part of Roman Reigns' entrance this year at WrestleMania. He was one of the guys on stage. Yeah, he was part of that. We've worked with him before. He's an awesome, awesome dude. Wrestling fans love him. Gaming fans love him because he's one of them. But he's also an unbelievably talented rapper. So he's going to be live on stage. Well, he's sending us off, really. He's going to be the one who's going to send us all off when the doors open and go and have a great time. It's going to be brilliant. Just anyone who wants to come along, get there early and don't be disappointed.
Yeah, no, I'm literally going to be at the Meltzer and Alvarez and shooting down. So hopefully the timers will work out, and that's where I'll be right after that.
Mate, you won't have to worry. We don't have to worry. We'll smuggle you in on our staff list. Don't worry about that.
I appreciate that one so much. I appreciate that so much. So here we go. You've got all of this stuff going on. Also, you mentioned your son. Can I just give him a quick shout out? Because I remember you wrote that he was the one who designed your Rumble advert. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was an absolutely awesome advert.
Yeah. Mate, he loves to get involved. And obviously you touched on it earlier that, next year might be rocky, with things changing with WWE, with them going to Netflix, which may or may not see us go by the wayside. But he's devastated because he's 10, coming up 11. And he's got it in his head that when he gets to 18, he's going to take over the mantle. But I'm like, I can't break it to him that I ain't got 8 years left in me. So we need an interim general manager.
I like the sound of that.
There you go. But no, he's a great guy. He's great. Having a 10-year-old who's really into his wrestling, like I was at that age. 10 years old was when I went to SummerSlam '92. So with all the events that have been in the UK recently, and I was privileged enough to be able to take him to WrestleMania this year, thanks to the guys at Wrestle Tours. So seeing him, his eyes light up watching Roman Reigns and Cody win the title and The Rock and everything else is genuinely, Anthony, the greatest experience of my life. Seeing that in his eyes, brilliant for us to enjoy wrestling and have fun. But what's really important is that next generation. When you're looking around Wembley Stadium on Sunday, just make sure the kids are having a good time, because that's the ones that will remember it forever. Just awesome.
I have to agree with you. Another guy in our team, Den the Tech, one of the rules he's always had, because he used to get front row tickets, if there was a kid behind him, he'll swap seats. Make sure that they get that moment and just really.
What a gentleman, man.
Oh, he is. He's a top guy.
What a gent, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, you're right. It is building that future, because there was a point where wrestling had lost that popularity, and it's good to see the kids are coming back into it and making it there. So before we talk about
it's never been more popular. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was going to say, before we go into the future of Hooked on Wrestling, just want to mention a few stuff, because you mentioned Wrestle Talk. When we were there before, there was Cultaholic. Tom from Cultaholic was one of your hosts. Progress Wrestling, Wrestle Tours, like all of these connections. How does that feel as a wrestling fan to now be this deeply rooted in the industry?
Oh, mate. I mean, honestly, you'll give me a big head if you give me the platform to sit and talk about the experience I've had. But I have been so privileged over the years. Like, obviously, I was an enormous wrestling fan growing up as a kid in Grimsby, watching it on Sky and on VHS in the early 90s. And I went and worked. Long story short, I ended up working in TV when I was in my 20s on the sales side of it, on the commercial side, and I just saw an opportunity and ended up working for an agency that did all of TNA's international distribution. So I became like really wedded to a lot of what TNA were doing in their heyday. And that just brought, honestly, the most unbelievable opportunities that I look back now and pinch myself. Like, I had 2 nights on the Razzle Dazzle with Ric Flair. Multiple dinners with Hulk Hogan. I went to India for a week with Kurt Angle and basically spent a week. He's my hero. He's my all-time hero. And he and I spent a week in each other's pockets, trawling around India. The experience I had then, and obviously, continue to have to a degree now, like you mentioned, with the likes of Progress Wrestling, with WWE to some degree and things like that. It's been incredible. Like, I look back now and I'm transitioning. My day jobs, I've started an estate agency. And that's where I see my future. It's boring. It's not what I was doing 15 years ago. If you'd have told the 25-year-old me that that's what I'd be doing at 42, I'd have laughed in your face. But times change. And I'm lucky enough that I can look back on what I did in my 20s and had all those experiences and go, do you know what? I can't complain. Like, if I do nothing now apart from sit and watch Coronation Street in my slippers with my wife for the next 15 years, I've got zero complaints. It's been an awesome ride.
Awesome, and well done to you. Do you know what? I've got butterflies here and now. I feel like I've done it with Michael Oku. I'm not doing it with you. The goosebumps are there. Love it.
That's the first time anyone's compared me and Michael Oku. He's a legend. That boy's a legend, by the way. Like, I've only really recently become familiar with his work. Like, I've known the name for a while, but I've not really. I'm quite tunnel vision in what I get involved in. So, I haven't got time to sort of see the wider British scene. But my God, is he good? Like, when he inevitably does go over to the States and gets that bit of sort of seasoning that only being on international television can bring, he is going to be one of the best in the world. Like, just stunning, no ceiling at all. Great guy.
No, I totally agree. And honestly, it was just before the Summer Sizzler, he gave us an hour and a half of his time, and I'm still so grateful for that. And then I was lucky enough to be there to see him take on MJF. Awesome match. So I totally co-sign everything you say. He's got a bright future ahead of him. Big time. Cool.
Big time.
Here we go. There was SummerSlam. It was a watch party, and the world had to hear that it was potentially the last. But the uproar kicked off, and it's there. Survivor Series is out there, and I'm encouraging everyone, because I've read the notes, buy your tickets. Buy your tickets, because I'm not going to mention the company I work for, but they need to see certain sales to ensure that these events go on. So that's what we're talking about. Now, that part is there. We need everyone to come there, get that unique experience of only what only Hooked on Wrestling can provide. The parties, the wrestlers that you get to interact with, the partying all night long to wrestling theme songs, the quizzes, the podcast that you watch on TV on your channels, and they're now hosting these shows for you. Sadly, with WWE now going to Netflix, the licensing now becomes an issue. Is there a positive light? Can we look forward to Hooked on Wrestling Royal Rumble watch party once again with another great superstar at the helm?
Well, first of all, what I will say is you're not mentioning the company you work for, but I will, because Stonegate have been phenomenal partners for us for the last 8-9 years. They've been amazing, especially some of the guys. Shout out to John Hill, who coordinates everything for us. I don't know if he comes across your radar or what you do, but he's been.
We've come across a few times, yeah.
He's awesome. He's been so important to what we do, and we continue to try and find ways to work together. But yeah, as you say, SummerSlam could have been our last, but everyone told us to book our ideas up basically and get something sorted for Survivor Series. So we have, and it's looking like that's going to be a big success. But then after that, you're right, Netflix kicks in January, which is going to be, by the way, right, putting aside the Hooked on stuff, that is going to be awesome for the wrestling industry. We think the popularity is high now. We've seen nothing compared to what it's going to be like when it goes to Netflix. With that machine behind it and that exposure it's going to get, WWE is going to be stratospheric. Like none of us have ever seen before. It'll be so exciting. But there's consequences to that. And like you say, that means that from January, there's no legal means as we stand to broadcast wrestling pay-per-views or wrestling PLEs in bars, commercial premises. So that means that by by definition, we go away unless we can find a way to work with WWE, which isn't out of the question, or if Netflix change their guidelines. Obviously, Netflix is sort of stepping into sport. They've got the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing going on, haven't they? And the more they move into sport, the more they need to find a way to work with pubs and bars, because, you know, sport is such a driver both ways for that. So the more they do that, the more encouraging it is. And if there's a way, if Netflix do find a way, find a deal with whatever platform to be able to bring their, to license it, to be able to in commercial premises, then we're back straight day one, boom. There's no, without any ambiguity. It's literally the only thing that's stopping us. We don't do things that are against broadcast regs. Like I say, I spent all my time I spent most of my career working TV, so I really, really respect the rules that are in place, and there's no way I'm going to do anything that's under the table. But if we can make it work and it's legal, mate, imagine the amount of tickets would sell when everybody's watching it on Netflix. We'd have to be getting Stonegate to give us a full estate, not just one bar.
Literally, yeah, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. It would be that. It's going to be huge. And do you know what? All I can say is on my end, and it's not from the Stonegate side of me, but as a wrestling fan, fingers crossed for it, because it is such a unique atmosphere. And it's such a heartwarming thing to, as you said, if you could pick any fan to be around, it's a wrestling fan. And to just be in that harmonious room, cheering and jeering and just having a laugh, seeing all the different costumes, the music, the parties, the quizzes. I remember listening to some of these quizzes thinking I knew some stuff, and burying heads, one of the other guys laughing. And it just made something. All of us counting, again, having a 10 countdown for a Royal Rumble is one thing with your mates. When you've got an entire room doing it and everyone making the buzzer sound together like a bunch of clowns, you just got to love it. You've got to love it, So,
mate, you're making my hairs go on the back of my hands. I want to go to one of these parties. Where can I buy a ticket?
Well, do you know what? Funny enough, I do know a man. But no, Paul, again, the platform is yours right now. Could you just tell us again, again, it's only up to now, but any upcoming Hooked on Wrestling shows, be it Box Park, be it Tattersall Castle, be it the famous Three Kings, whatever, just plug them away and just tell them where they can buy the tickets, please, because I would love for people to attend these.
So I'll be really brief on this all-in weekend. So essentially, what I would suggest you do first of all is if you're going to be in London this weekend, head to hookedontickets.co.uk, which has got a full list of events, which includes as Anthony's already said, we have got Meltzer and Alvarez on Sunday morning. We've also got a tailgate party taking place at Sports Bar and Grill Marylebone on Sunday morning. But then rewind further, we've got on Friday night, we've got Nigel McGuinness in Kensington. His magic show is awesome. We've only got about 6 tickets left to that. So maybe by the time you listen to this, we might even be sold out. But if not, get involved there. And then on Saturday night, we are throwing a rock, rap, and wrestling party in Tufnell Park. And I would love people to come along to that. I really, really would, because it's going to be 200 like-minded wrestling fans throwing back the beers. We've got a live wrestling covers band live on stage called the Small Packages, who are absolutely brilliant. Mega Ran's going to be there as well. We've got a couple of special guests coming along too. And I'd love everyone to, because it's obviously most people are going to Rev Pro at the Copper Box on Saturday night. So we're going to be we're not the official after party, but let's call us the after party of that brilliant Rev Pro event. So come out of the Copper Box, jump on the tube, get to Tufnell Park, and come and absolutely rock out until the early hours. We're not going to put only a stage acts on until people have had time to get over from the Copper Box, but come and join us. hookedontickets.co.uk.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, Paul. So normally with wrestlers, we always go for a little quick fire question. I know you said you've never, you're not going to promote any more shows, but just going to ask a few questions just so we get a good feel of who you are as a wrestling fan. So
awesome.
I'm going to go with the first question. First wrestling memory.
My first wrestling memory is SummerSlam 91. I think it's probably the Legion of Doom against the Nasty Boys in their Chicago street fight. That was my first match I ever saw, and I was mesmerized.
Nice. Love it. Favorite wrestler growing up?
Growing up, Randy Savage. A little bit later, Kurt Angle.
Nice. Current favorite wrestler?
let's say Gunter.
Nice. Hey, Golden Gold. I like that. Favorite theme song / entrance of all time?
Oh, yes. Now we're talking. I could go on all night with this. I think the most underappreciated theme tune of all time is maybe the Legion of Dooms. Like the energy that thing brings to a stadium, to an arena, to a TV broadcast. I mean, unparalleled even to this day. So yeah, let's go with Legion of Doom.
That's a rare answer. I like that as well. And I saw LOD today on a video on Insta. Yeah, I like that.
I like to be different.
Yeah, nice. Favorite match of all time?
Do you know what? I can answer this one actually pretty definitively. I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, as I might have given away by a couple of my previous answers. And the peak of tag team wrestling was the main event of night 1 of WrestleMania 39, the Usos against KO and Sami Zayn.
Nice.
4 of my absolute favorites on the biggest stage that tag teams have had, culmination of a massive story. It had absolutely everything, and it was an incredible match too. So I'm a big proponent of a match being so much more than just the match. It's about the build and the crowd and what's invested into it. And there's very, very few matches that have had that for me. So I'm going to go with that tag team main event of WrestleMania 39.
It's a good shout. It's a good. I'm loving these answers, Paul. I'm not going to lie. Favorite pay-per-view of all time?
Favorite pay-per-view of all time would be, I'm a big fan of WrestleMania 19. Like I loved WrestleMania 19. Like I remember watching it live and thinking, what is the main event going to be? Because it was so stacked. You had Jericho against Shawn Michaels was mid-card. Then you had Hulk Hogan against Vince McMahon. And I know that's not quite as intriguing after what's gone on in the last couple of years as it was back then. But back then that was massive. It felt huge. You had Triple H against Booker T, which paled in comparison to the rest. And then the main event being Brock Lesnar against Kurt Angle, which was my absolute jam. That was like the match for me. I remember being so excited. So yeah, WrestleMania 19.
Last Mania as well, wasn't it? Well, before the
of course.
Gosh, that's a really good Mania.
Right, there's a great example of how good that card is. I just ran it down and forgot about Steve Austin versus The Rock. Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay, this is a bit of an emotional one. With all the Q&As that you've done, I thought this was a nice fitting question. If you could do a Q&A with someone who is no longer with us, who would it be?
Oh, man, that is a great question. I would say, because he sort of passed before this became a thing, really, before wrestlers had podcasts and Q&As and convention appearances, I would love to hear the stories of Curt Hennig. I think he'd be unbelievable in terms of the mechanics in the ring, the stupid stuff he got up to on the road, growing up in wrestling. I think Curt Hennig would be an incredible Q&A guest.
Oh, Paul, I am loving these. Oh, mate, you wait till I'm at Box Park. We're going to sit down, mate. There's a beer on me. I'm telling you that now.
Sounds good.
And just last question, hobbies outside of wrestling?
Oh, mate, I don't have hobbies. I've got a business and a child and a wrestling fan community to run, so I don't have time for hobbies. No, in all seriousness, Hooked on Wrestling is my hobby. Where I do. My poor, long-suffering wife puts up with me, basically working the clock round on various things. So there's, I could not possibly impose on her anymore. So my free time is Hooked on Wrestling.
I love it. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am praying that by the time Jake Paul and Tyson have their fight, there's this new licensing and we don't have to worry about the future of Hooked on Wrestling, because it's a fantastic event, or series of events, should I say, around the country and even internationally. It's been a pleasure meeting you, literally from the GYV to those events, and just having this conversation with you. And I would just love to see Hooked On go just enough for your son to take the reins off you. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And likewise, I've not done a podcast interview for a long time, and I've really enjoyed this. So thanks for having me, and you've been an awesome host. Really appreciate it.
I really appreciate that as well. Okay, guys, so please do head on over to Hooked On Tickets. It's going to be down there for you guys to do it. Click the link, buy your tickets. It's All In weekend, and it is all in with Hooked on Wrestling. If you're in the UK, you have to support one of their shows because it's wrestling. As he said, you like wrestling, we love wrestling. So let's talk and mingle with other wrestling fans. Guys, until the next time, I am the one, AJ Anthony Jordan. That's Paul B from Hooked on Wrestling, and we will see you hopefully at All In, if not at another show. See ya.